Hello and welcome. My name is Josh Burns, and today I'm going to be continuing on with the second part of the three-part tutorial on how I created the Prometheus style video. But before I dive in and start creating what's at the end of the haul, I would just like to take a moment and thank all of those who have decided to subscribe to my videos and all the positive feedback, whether it be hitting the like button or in the comments. Thank you very much for that, and I'm super pumped because last week I got over 100 subscribers, so that's a pretty big deal for me, so that's awesome. I hope to keep doing this for as long as I have knowledge to share and cool stuff to show you guys. And speaking of cool, at the end of this video, I am going to be showing a sample of something I've been working on, a concept. It's still pretty preliminary, but it has potential to yield some pretty remarkable results. Okay, so at the end of the previous video, we had completed the hallway, and we're perched at the end, staring off into oblivion. If you want to see that tutorial, click here. And if you want to see the video that's based off of, click here. Alright, so now to create what's at the end of the hall. Basically, it's a sphere that's at the end of the hall. And it's going to be right here. So open up two views so you can see what's going on. It's good to have a top view set up. Okay, so first off, to create that sphere shape, you want to go into Element, and instead of actually creating a mask shape, I'm going to go into the primitives and select one here. It's a sphere, but it's called Environment, and what that has is the normals have been turned, have been inverted. And what that means is that basically the texture is facing inwards. So you can see through it, you can see the back facing wall on the inside. So that's why the light looks like it's reacting like there's a lower light. It's actually from above, it's just passing through the wall, through the actual surface that's facing you and hitting the back wall. And that's what you see there. So you want to make that group 3 and open or go back into After Effects. And so you can see it's not really showing. That's because it's in the very center, and you can kind of see the edge of it just right there in the top view. Okay, so first off, you want to make it much bigger, so I just sort of estimated as 75, so that's going to make it pretty big. Okay, and then you just want to move it into position at the end of the hall, so that basically the edge of the sphere itself is just intersecting with the wall, and you just achieve that by adjusting under the particle replicator the XY position and the Z position. You probably don't have to do much with the Y position. It's pretty much going to be at the right height, but you just sort of get it positioned into place. So basically what you want is it just intersecting with the end of the hall. And that's what we have here. And so now if you go into the main view here, and sometimes what I like to do is add an extra camera, and this is just sort of to give me another vantage point. If I'm happy with my camera position for my shot or my scene, what I'll do is I'll just add this extra camera so I don't have to mess around with my actual camera. And the active camera is always the highest camera in the hierarchy, so if it's on layer 1 in your timeline, then it's going to be the one that's showing up as the active camera. And to make it not visible, you just click the eye, and then it will default back to the next camera in the list, which is the main camera, which I'm pretty happy with that position, so I didn't want to mess with it, and that's why I added this in here. So you can see here, it's intersecting a little bit, and you can't see into the hallway from inside the sphere. So this shot only really works from within the hallway. You can't go in and then turn around and look down the hallway from within the room. Okay, so now to create the rib structure that goes around the inside of this room. So just create a new solid, a nice bright orange. And since I know that the inside wall is round like a sphere, I'm going to bring this in for reference. So just lock that mask, maybe change the color to green, add another mask, and start drawing along this sort of edge here. And it's just this one side that I need to be worried about. The inside shape doesn't matter, it doesn't have to conform, it's just so that that edge is the right size. Okay, so this is sort of the rib structure, and then the base platform here, and I've added this extra little piece. And then along this structure, there was these sort of cutout sections, and so just do these sort of squares with the rounded corners a little bit on them, and they just go along the edge and sort of widen as the rib shape widens as well. Just get a little better view this way. Okay, and then maybe one more closer to the top. Okay, that's looking good. And then maybe just create a little bit rounder, more organic look, because what we're going for is a very biomechanical, not something that was just created by someone, something that was grown or based on a living structure. Okay, so you want to add that under the custom text and masks layer and go into element. Alright, so you want to select the custom path 2. Here it is. So first off, you want to fix holes, and then start playing around with it. With this, I was again going for a very organic look, so I want a lot of smooth round curves. So this first piece, it's quite a bit wider. This first bevel here, that looks good, and very round again, and that's by using not very much extrusion and more bevel depth itself. And so I added in a second bevel, and this one's sort of centered, and then instead of having it be a standard curve, it's going to actually be a convex curve, so it curves upwards along the path there. So the idea is that this creates a shape that's like it's one solid piece. It's sort of curving upward from the original piece here, so you can see there. And then I'm not really happy with the top layer of that. It's kind of like just flat on top, so I'm going to sort of create a bit of a cap for that. And so again, just another bevel, and just getting it positioned, so, and the width and all that down. And so the idea is that this is sort of a one-piece structure, not any real big seams or anything like that, or any gaps. You kind of want to just look like it's something that is organic. So getting pretty close here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And when you're happy with the shape that you have, just go back into After Effects. Make sure you choose group 4 so that it's not messing with anything you've already done. Alright, so you can see here it's positioned in the same spot as the sphere started out in. So easiest way to get that position is just copy and paste the position, the X, Y, and the Z position of the particle replicator into group 4, and then it will be positioned right smack dab in the middle of that sphere. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So now, to get that sort of rib shape that goes all around the perimeter of this spherical room, you want to use, instead of the point replicator type, or replicator shape, you want to use a ring. Okay, and then increase the value, or the particle count. So I think we'll go with 9 right off the bat. I might adjust it later, but you can see here, now it's sort of creating a ring shape with your mask, with your beveled shape. And then if you go into the particle look and the rotation, if you rotate along the y-axis, what that's going to do is actually bring all of the points inward and actually create this sort of spherical outer edge now. The outer edge is now going to the outside and will match up perfectly with the sphere. So now I just have to adjust the scale of the particle. So I use 75 for the sphere, so if I use 75 for this, it sort of it normalizes the shape. So all shapes are basically the same size in Element. So to do that, you can just increase it to the same value, and it'll be the exact same size. So now bring it up, the scale of the shape itself. So that's the ring. How big is that ring? To get it to match up with the wall. And then you can see here, the hallway is kind of positioned sort of right on one of the ribs. So to fix that, you just go into the rotation options for the actual particle itself, the particle replicator itself. So not in the particle look, but the particle replicator rotation. It gets confusing because there's about 30 different rotation options with element, times 5, I guess. So in this case, it's just the particle replicator rotation. Okay, I'm just increasing the number to get it a little bit closer in towards that hallway. And just play around with it to get the look you like, and then situate the hallway between those two ribs. And so this is why I have the second camera. It's just to get, you know, sort of to be able to pan around and get a look at things without having to use that secondary view. I can just click on, click off, and then just turn that layer off and right back over at the end of the hall where it was supposed to be. So another thing too that I remember I did with the original video was I played with the actual camera zoom to get a little bit more of the hallway and the room itself in the shot. So that's a great way to sort of open it up and see a little bit more of your whole overall shot. So there, now you can see it's not quite looking like the original. So what's happened here is my original shape, the base floor area was a lot lower. So we just have to correct that on the mask here. So just move this down, sort of tweak it a bit, and there you go. Just speed this up here because you don't need to see how to draw a mask. It's pretty easy. Alright, so that's a little bit better. And zoom in and get, that's a lot closer to what the original video was. Looking good. Okay, one thing that's missing is the sort of detail along this rib here with those sort of cutout areas. That's missing, so I want to correct that as well. So bring that down so that detail continues down the rib shape and then shows up in the shot because it's a cool detail, so I'd be ashamed to lose it. Okay, there we go. Perfect. And then next thing, just the opening up of these ribs. That's just as simple as adjusting the Z rotation of the particle look. So what that'll do is that'll open up the center and swing it out so we can have the device, whatever it is, that rises up in the center of the original video. So whatever that is, it gives it room for it to rise up. Okay, so one thing I do notice a little bit here is the sides clipping through the environment layer, the outer sphere. So you just want to play with the size a little bit. Now 75 was the exact same size as the sphere, but maybe just bring it down a little bit in size so it's not clipping so badly when the actual sphere opens up, or when those ribs sort of move. So you can see that's looking a little bit better. It's not clipping anymore. Alright, so now the center device. Now I'm not going to bore you with drawing masks because anyone can draw masks. So I'll just skip ahead to what the shape was that I created. And it's just, I don't know exactly what I was planning. I was kind of actually going to go with a different idea. It was going to be more of like some sort of a weapon that comes up and sort of rotates around. But I ended up going with something that was more of a sphere look. So here's the original piece here, and you can kind of see how it could be maybe some sort of a weapon, just sort of an assortment of shapes. Some overlapping and some cutting out, and yeah, just kind of an interesting shape. And sometimes the some of the nicest stuff that I've created has been based on just playing around with something and seeing how you can get it. So first off, just add this to the custom text and masks, and then go into elements. So you want to extrude the shape, select layer 3 or custom path 3, and with this it's just sort of getting a rounded kind of shape. Again, something very organic, sort of suited to this look, very similar to what I did with the rib shape, but just a little bit more sort of this rounded middle section, and then with a cap sort of on either end. And so that'll create some extra detail and just some interesting shapes that go along with the piece as it goes. So again, just play around with these settings in Element, and that's the best way to learn and the best way to figure out what works. So you can see we have a pretty good sort of idea what's going on here, and make sure you add that and choose group 5 for this one. We're using the last group here so that we're not changing anything that we've already done. Okay, and just again, just play around, get a shape that you like that'll work for what you're trying to do. I mean, it's not, math. I mean, it is. It's numbers, right? But it's also like, just play around with it. See what you like. And again, this one, you'll have to go in and copy and paste the X, Y, and Z position, and that'll get it centered in the room again. Same exact process as with the rib shape. Okay, so we go back out with the secondary camera. You can see here's a piece kind of hanging out in the middle of the room. There you go. So again, this is a ring, and going with 9 right off the bat. And so again, you don't want to play around that much with the actual replicator rotation. It's the particle look rotation that'll get you better results. When using a ring, you want to actually change the position and the rotation, or how the actual pieces are showing up. So you can see here, get them a little bit closer and reduce the size of the actual particle replicator size. You can bring them all close together and then scale it up, play around with the rotation a bit more to get sort of the shape of this device from the original video, sort of this, whatever it is, it sort of blooms out when the ribs open up. So, and then you just adjust the Y value of the actual particle emitter, or the particle replicator. So here we are, back into the hall a little bit, and there is the ribs opening, and you just keyframe the rising of the device, and then just play around with the Y rotation and have it sort of open up a little bit as it rises as well. And I just want to play around with this a little bit more. Just try a different shape, maybe. See if it looks good with a little bit different of shape. A little bit narrower, but a little bit rounder. See what that is. I tried it out. I wasn't really happy with it, so just go with something a little bit closer to what I had before. Again, it's always a good idea. Just if you want to try something out, try it. I mean, it may not look good may turn out to be really awesome. So it's just a good idea, good practice to get into, is playing around with things, and don't be happy with the very first result. You know, try something else out. And then, yeah, so this, just have it twirl open a bit as it rises. And that is pretty much all I did for this scene at the end of the hall. I think I added some wiggle to the camera, point of interest, just to give it a little bit more of an organic look. So, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this tutorial. Creating the end chamber. It's always good to add a little ambient occlusion. It creates a little bit moodier of a look. But that's as far as we're going to go today with lighting. The next tutorial is actually going to focus more on the actual material used. And that's the normal map, as well as the texture settings, the material settings itself, as well as lighting, which is one of the key things to getting a shot like this. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm currently working on something new, a new technique or concept, I guess, on how to animate masks successfully when using Element 3D. So here's the video. It's a sort of a robot walking cycle, or some sort of mech, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with this result. It's still pretty preliminary at this point, but it's still pretty cool. More to come with this in the future. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed it, hit like. If you want to see more tutorials, more videos, hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching. This has been Josh Burns. Talk to you later.